never made it, but I know what it takes. I'm motivated by a mix of emotion. Got my statement, and I'm reading it slow so I can understand it fully. Appreciate my standing, go out of this world and right on time. Oh, never in my life have I seen the sky light up like this. I'm far away from Earth and I wanna know if you exist. Mission control, do you read me? Send me my coordinates lately. Mission control, am I drifting? Tie me to someone who will love me, yeah. Wait, I think I'll last a bit longer. Find another.
Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd family a part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. It's a Friday. Hopefully everybody's looking forward to another wonderful weekend. It is officially fall. Despite the weather in some areas, it is now officially fall after yesterday. Yesterday was the first official day of fall. Today we're going to be talking some college football here on the channel and previewing some games on the way this weekend. Before we talk about college football, let me first say that last night in the NFL, Thursday night football, week number 2 of Amazon Prime, Thursday night football, the Cleveland Browns defeated the Pittsburgh Steelers by the score of 29-17. So the Browns are now a better team with a backup quarterback than they were with Baker Mayfield. And of course, Baker Mayfield has done nothing with the Panthers except continue to be mediocre. He is the definition of mediocrity. And in case you have not heard, the Boston Celtics have suspended their coach, Ime Udoka, for the entire 2022-2023 NBA season for off-the-court conduct. He supposedly had a relationship with a staff member, and that is against Boston Celtics rules. So we'll wait and see who the interim coach for the year will be, and we'll wait and see if this suspension is upheld or if it will get reduced over time. But as of right now, he is out for the entire season. But we kicked off week number 4 in college football last night with West Virginia getting back to 500 on the season by defeating Virginia Tech by the score of 33-10. And I know the final score looks bad, but the game was close for a long time. It was actually 16-10 in about the middle point of the third quarter, and it seemed like the Hokies just fell apart. So the final score is not indicative of how close the game was for a long time. But the Mountaineers have a kicker whose last name is Leg. Now, there cannot be a better name for a kicker than Leg, but what else can you do on the football field besides kick if your last name is Leg? It's kind of like back when Colt McCoy was in college. Of course, we know he quarterbacked the Texas Longhorns, and when you hear the name Colt McCoy, that's a cowboy name. So when you have the name Colt McCoy, you can't play for any other team than Texas. When your last name is Leg, you can't play any other position besides kicker. Coastal Carolina is now 4-0 on the season. They defeated Georgia State last night by the score of 41-24. Now, coming up tonight, we have an ACC battle when Virginia takes on Syracuse. Now, Virginia's record right now looks good, but their offense looks abysmal. They had to kick a late field goal last week to beat Old Dominion. I believe the final score was 16-14. Brennan Armstrong just has no protection. Their offensive line is absolutely pitiful. And I heard yesterday that there are only 4 teams who have beaten 2 Power 5 teams so far this year. Of course, nobody has beaten 3. And that's why I always hate people talk about schedules, because they act like their team plays a tough game every single week, and no team in America plays 12 tough games. But there's only 4 teams right now who have beaten 2 Power 5 teams, and Syracuse is one of those 4 teams. It is Syracuse, Florida State, Georgia, and Penn State. Those are the only 4 teams through the first 3 weeks of the season who have beaten 2 Power 5 opponents. So Syracuse off to a hot start. Now, coming up tomorrow, we have some good games in the noon time slot. We have Maryland taking on Michigan, so we'll finally get a chance to see how good Michigan really is. I do think Michigan wins the game pretty handily, but I don't think it's going to be 55-10 or anything like that. And Tagovailoa, Maryland's quarterback, of course, he is the younger brother of Tua. He's not quite as good as Tua, but he is really, really good. We also have Clemson at Wake Forest in the noon slot tomorrow. That will be the ABC noon game. Now, Clemson has beaten Wake Forest 13 consecutive years. They beat them by double digits, I believe, the last 5 years. And Wake Forest has been a really, really, really good running team the last few years. And even when they could run the ball, they couldn't run the ball on Clemson. And if they don't get some kind of running game tomorrow, they have no chance. But it should be a high-scoring game because Wake Forest does not have a very good defense. I mean, it's not Tar Heel bad, but it's not very good. But they have an explosive offense. That should be a high-scoring game. And then we have Baylor at Iowa State. Iowa State's off to a much better start than most people thought they would get off to, losing so much as they did in the offseason. And, of course, we know Baylor is really good again. That will be the ESPN2 noon game. And then on FS1 at noon, we have the battle of the basketball schools who are undefeated right now in football, and that is Duke at Kansas. I do think Kansas will win this game, but it's funny how you have all these basketball schools like Duke and Kansas and Kentucky and North Carolina who are 3-0 right now on the season, but I think Duke suffers their first loss tomorrow. And then at 3:30, you have Appalachian State and James Madison. Now, looking at that game, you think, that's not a very good game, and it probably isn't, according to most people, because it's Sun Belt teams. But Appalachian State, so far, is the most exciting team in America. You're talking about a team that put up 40 points against North Carolina in the fourth quarter and almost came back and won the game, losing by the score of 63-61. And then 2 weeks ago, they pulled off the upset over Texas A&M. And then last week, they won on a Hail Mary as time expired. So Appalachian State's the most exciting team in the country right now. So if that continues, the game tomorrow against James Madison should be an exciting football game. And, of course, we know James Madison used to be a 1AA school. They are now a Division I school. We also have Florida at Tennessee tomorrow at 3:30. That will be the CBS game, of course. It's SEC. We know that. I mentioned this yesterday, but I'll talk about it a little more today. For whatever reason, Tennessee just cannot beat Florida. I think Tennessee's beat Florida one time in the last 15 years, and we're talking about the years of Jim McElwain and the years of Will Muschamp. Tennessee just cannot beat Florida. The one win that Tennessee has in the last 15 years came in 2016, and in that game, Florida was actually up 21-0, and I don't know what happened, but they just fell to pieces. Tennessee won the game. That's the only win Tennessee has in that rivalry in 15 years. But Florida is down this year, so if Tennessee is going to pull out a win, it should be tomorrow. But I have a feeling somehow, some way, Florida wins the game. And I think it's because Anthony Richardson was really, really good in week 1 against Utah. But in the last 2 weeks, he has no touchdowns and 4 interceptions and has completed less than half of his passes. So he's due for a good game. And when Richardson's good, Florida is tough to beat. And then we have Texas at Texas Tech at 3:30 tomorrow on ESPN. I think Texas will win that game. And then we have Notre Dame at North Carolina at 3:30 on ABC. Now we know North Carolina has no defense at all, but Notre Dame's offense has been average at best so far this year. But if your offense is ever going to have a breakout game, it's going to be against North Carolina. And we also have Indiana at Cincinnati on ESPN2 at 3:30. So a lot of 3:30 good games coming up tomorrow. And then at 7 o'clock tomorrow night, we have Arkansas at Texas A&M. And, of course, this is a neutral site game that will be played in Arlington. And they're saying it's pretty much 50-50 right now as far as crowd support with the amount of tickets that have been sold. It's pretty much a sellout, half and half for both schools. I think Arkansas wins the game by at least 2 touchdowns. I just don't think A&M is any good. And then we have Iowa at Rutgers tomorrow night at 7 o'clock on Fox Sports 1. If you love defense and you love hard hitting and you love football being played the way football should be played, that's the game you want to watch. And then at 7:30 tomorrow night, we have Wisconsin at Ohio State. That is the ABC primetime game. Wisconsin cannot throw the ball. They're a one-trick pony, and I just don't see them hanging with Ohio State with no passing game at all, and they have no passing game at all. And then we have Boston College at Florida State at 8 o'clock, and Florida State, of course, is undefeated right now. We'll see if that continues tomorrow night. I still say they have finally found the right man for the job. And then 9:30 tomorrow night is USC at Oregon State. And I'm still not convinced USC's defense is any good. And Oregon State's actually better than what most people realize. So I think Oregon State should hang with USC. Not saying they'll beat USC, but they should hang with USC. Any thoughts on any other games coming up tonight or tomorrow or last night's games? Please feel free to let me know. And all of you in Northeast Georgia and the upstate of South Carolina, hopefully I will see you tonight at 122 Builders Court in Boiling Springs for our great benefit wrestling show with American Pro Wrestling and the Straight Up Wrestling Show. Hopefully I will see all of you out there. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. What happens when doctors get frustrated? They lose their patience. And that wraps it up for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.